In the old days, before iron found its song and before kingdoms wore their names like crowns, there was a kingdom deep in the heart of the green continent, a place called Senu. It was a land where baobabs touched the heavens and rivers carried songs of the ancestors. In Senu lived Princess Abeni, daughter of King Oba and Queen Ireti. She was as radiant as sunrise over the savannah, her laughter like chorus strings in the wind. But at her birth, 3 spirits came, not all in blessing. The first, the spirit of beauty, gave her grace that would charm even the storms. The second, the spirit of wisdom, gave her a mind sharp as obsidian. The third, the spirit of Enli, who had not been invited, whispered, "Let her beauty be her burden. Let all who touch her feel pain." And so, when Abeni turned 16, a strange thing happened. Her skin grew thorns, like the bougainvillea that guards a royal gate. They were invisible until touched, and any who brushed her hand or cheek bled red as sunset. No healer could cure it, no charm could contain it. The kingdom despaired. "Keep her hidden," said the courtiers. "A princess who cannot be embraced will bring sorrow." So the king built her a garden of solitude, vast and green, filled with flowers that would not fear her. There she walked alone beneath the moon, her gown whispering through grass. The people called her the Thorn Princess, and songs of her tragedy drifted through the market squares. One day, a traveler came to Senu, a gardener named Kaito, from a distant tribe of the southern forests. His hands were wrapped in cloth, scarred from tending the wild roses of his homeland. When the king heard of his skill, he sent him to the princess's garden. "But beware," warned the guards, "no man may touch her skin." Kaito only bowed, he said, "I have known pain before, and yet the earth still blooms beneath my hands." When he entered the garden, Abeni was sitting beside the river, her reflection shimmering with petals. "You are not afraid?" she asked. "I fear only the weeds that choke beauty," he said. She smiled for the first time in many moons. Day after day, he worked quietly, pruning, planting, humming songs in his language. Abeni watched him from his shade, curious about the man whose hands looked like the earth after lightning, burned, cracked, and yet alive. One morning, a thorn vine grew wild, curling toward Kaito. Without thinking, Abeni reached out to stop it. Her fingers brushed his hand. There was no scream, no blood, only a soft pulse, like rain striking soil. She gasped, "You are not hurt!" He looked down at her trembling hand in his and smiled sadly. "My scars are older than your curse. I cannot feel pain as others do." From that day, something unseen began to grow between them, something delicate as a sprout in dry season. They worked together. He taught her the names of flowers in his tongue, Nedle, the hope flower, Mora, the memory vine. She told him stories of the palace she could no longer enter. When the moon rose full, she would sing and he would listen, his heart swelling like the river after rains. The palace noticed her laughter returning, and the people whispered, "Perhaps the curse is softening." But curses, like roots, run deep. One evening, while pruning a rose bush, Kaito cut his palm. Abeni rushed to him, forgetting herself. She touched his face in panic, and a thorn burst from her wrist, piercing her own skin. Pain shot through her body. The garden cried with her. Petals fell and vines coiled like mourning serpents. Kaito held her through the tempest, refusing to let go. "I will not leave," he swore. She wept. "I am poison, Kaito. I will ruin you." He pressed his scarred hand to her heart. "Then let us ruin the curse together." As dawn broke, his blood stained the roots of her roses. The spirit of envy screamed, for in trying to deepen her pain, it had awakened something older, The spirit of love, the first and strongest root of all things. The garden glowed. The thorns on her skin wilted, turning to petals that fell like rain. Kaito's wounds closed, and for the first time, she felt warmth instead of pain when someone touched her. The curse had not vanished, it had changed. Her thorns would still grow when she felt fear or hatred, but love could quiet them. The people rejoiced. The king welcomed Kaito into the palace, and the two were wed beneath the blooming baobab. Yet the griots sang quietly that night. Every curse that sleeps may dream again. Seasons turned. The garden of Sennu thrived, bursting with colors no one had seen before, roses that glowed in moonlight, lilies that whispered with children at play. Abeni and Kato ruled beside her father, though their hearts belonged most to the soil. They were called the Healers of Thorns, and their love became legend. But the spirit of envy is a patient serpent. It slithered unseen beneath the roots, whispering to stones and shadows. Let them think peace will last. Even blossoms rot when the heart forgets the storm. One dawn, Abeni woke from a dream of fire. The garden was aflame, the roses screaming her name. She rose and found Kato gone from their bed. Panic gripped her. She ran barefoot to the garden and found him kneeling among ashes. His hands bled where he had tried to save the vines. It began at midnight. No wind, no spark, only fire from within the earth. Abeni touched a charred branch. Beneath the soot, she saw new green shoots, trembling but alive. "The garden lives," she whispered. "Something is testing us." That night, the spirit returned to her dreams, not as a serpent now, but as a mask carved from dark wood, smiling with hollow eyes. "Princess," it crooned, "you think love can erase me? You are made of thorn. You cannot change what you are." She woke, gasping, thorns pricking her palms again. Days turned to weeks, and fear crept back into her. The vines began to wither in her presence. Kato saw the return of her pain and said, "Let us leave this place a while. The world is wide. Perhaps the spirits will not follow us." So they left Sennu, crossing grasslands and rivers, sleeping beneath constellations that watched like old gods. Everywhere they went, people begged Abeni for healing. "Touch us, Thorn Princess, that we may feel what pain truly means." And though her thorns still stung, her touch began to draw poison from wounds, sorrow from hearts. She became a healer whose pain gave others peace. But each cure weakened her. "The garden in me is dying," she confessed one night by the river. Kato took her hands, the scars of his palms glowing faintly in the moonlight. "Then we will plant another, together," he said. They journeyed north to the kingdom of Uluru, a place where drums spoke before words and spirits walked openly among men. There lived the priestess Mama Adisa, keeper of the river shrine. She looked upon Abeni and nodded slowly. "You are marked by envy, yes, but also chosen by the oldest power, the power of balance. For every thorn, a bloom. For every wound, a song." She gave them a seed as black as night. "Plant this where love and pain are equal. Only there will the curse find rest." They searched long before they found such a place, a valley where lightning had split the earth, yet wildflowers grew over the scar. Together they knelt, planting the seed in silence. When the first rain fell, it sprouted at once, a tree with silver bark and petals like blood and milk mixed together. The people would later call it the Tree of Tomorrow. They built a home beside it, living humbly, tending the valley. Abeni's thorns no longer appeared when she touched Kato. and her laughter filled the air again. Years passed, and travelers began to come from far lands to seek the Valley of Healing. The tree grew tall, its blossoms feeding birds that shone like jewels. Yet deep within its roots, the spirit of envy whispered, weak but not dead. If I cannot destroy love, I will corrupt what it grows. One evening, when the horizon burned gold, Abeni felt a faint ache in her chest. Not pain, but a warning. Cato, she said softly, do you ever fear that peace is only a pause before sorrow? He touched her cheek. Peace is the breath between battles. Without it, we would never survive the war of living. And so they stayed, and their love endured. But fate, like a river, never forgets its source. Far to the south, in a city where masks danced and kings wore iron crowns, a messenger whispered of the Thorn Princess who healed the sick and tamed curses. A greedy ruler heard and said, bring her to me. If her touch can cure, then her blood can conquer death. He sent hunters into the night, armed not with spears, but with chains of bronze blessed by dark priests. When they came to the valley, the air grew cold. Even the birds fell silent. Cato rose from his sleep and saw shadows moving between the trees. He seized his hoe, the tool that had always been his weapon, and stood before the door. Abeni clutched his arm. Do not fight them, my love. He kissed her brow. I do not fight for victory. I fight so your heart may live to love again. The hunters descended. The moon vanished behind storm clouds. What followed was chaos, shouts, blood, the sound of metal biting earth. By dawn, the ground was red, and the hunters fled. Cato lay broken among the roots of the tree of tomorrow. Abeni crawled to him, her body trembling with grief. Her thorns grew again, wild and sharp, cutting her as she held him. His breath came faint. Do not let the tree die, he murmured. Our love is its root. She pressed her forehead to his. Then I will guard it, even if it costs my soul. When the sun rose, the valley shimmered, the tree's blossoms turning from silver to deep crimson. And from its roots, whispers rose, carrying Cato's last words through the land. Love does not end when the heart stops beating. It becomes the soil for new beginnings. And though the people would later say the Thorn Princess wept herself into stone, the valley still blooms every year, red and white petals drifting over the grass like memory. The griot's voice pauses now, softer. Even when pain sleeps, love must keep watch. The Valley of the Tree of Tomorrow became a sacred place. Pilgrims from distant lands came to pray beneath its branches, leaving offerings of song and memory. They said that if one wept truly, the petals would fall and grant healing. But peace, even when born from love, attracts the hungry eyes of those who crave its power. The king of Aloru, whose greed was older than his throne, heard of the valley's miracles. He sent soldiers, saying, bring me a branch from that tree, that I may plant eternity in my court. When they reached the valley, they found no princess, only the great tree rising from mist, and beneath it, a woman carved from stone, her hair of vines, her face serene as rain. The soldiers tried to cut a branch, but their blades bent like reeds. The commander scoffed and struck the statue. The sky darkened. Thunder rolled like ancestral drums. From the stone woman's eyes flowed crimson tears, and the earth trembled. That night, all who had raised a weapon against the tree vanished. Their armor was found later, empty, filled with petals. The king of Aloru declared the valley cursed and forbade his people to go there. Yet stories cannot be silenced. The griot's song that Abini's spirit guarded the tree, and that her beloved Cato lived on in the roots, whispering through the leaves. Generations passed. The valley grew wild again, untouched by human hand. But deep in the heart of the forest, something began to stir. A child wandered there one morning, a herder's daughter named Nia, chasing a lost goat. She stumbled upon the clearing and gasped at the sight of the immense silver tree. Drawn by its beauty, she reached out and touched the bark. The ground pulsed softly, and for a heartbeat she heard a woman's voice whisper, "Do not fear what blooms from sorrow." When she returned to her village, flowers sprouted where she stepped, and her wounds healed overnight. The elders took this as a sign and brought her before the shrine. The oracle listened to her tale and said, "The Thorn Princess is not gone. Her gift sleeps in this child." Years passed, and Nia grew into a healer. Her hands could coax crops from dry soil. Her songs eased childbirth and fever. Yet she always felt a presence beside her, like a mother unseen. One night, the spirit of Abini appeared in her dreams, her eyes like dusk over the savannah. She said, "Child, the curse is not ended, it has only changed its shape. Guard your heart, for envy does not die, it waits." The next morning, Nia found her fingertips pricked with small glowing thorns. Fear filled her, but when she pressed her hands to a sick man's chest, his fever fled. She wept, "Am I cursed too?" A voice inside her answered softly, "You are chosen, not cursed." But every gift bears its wound. The villagers revered her, calling her Abini's echo. But the chief's son, Taro, grew jealous of her fame. "He steals glory meant for the ancestors," he told the people. "No mortal should wield such power." He watched her heal, watched her smile at the children, and his envy festered like rot beneath the bark. One night, he crept into her hut and stole the vial of her tears, which she kept to water her plants. He carried it to a witch in the northern hills. "Make me greater than her," he demanded. The witch peered into the vial and chuckled. "Her power comes from love, not pride. You cannot steal what your heart refuses to hold." But Taro would not listen. He poured the tears over his hands. The witch screamed, "Fool!" Thorns erupted from his skin, piercing deep. He fled, cursing Nia's name, and vanished into the wild. The next morning, the sky was filled with strange birds, black and green, circling the valley. Nia felt dread tighten her chest. She followed the signs back to the tree of tomorrow, and there she saw him again. Taro stood before the tree, his body wrapped in thorns, his eyes burning red. "You took what should have been mine," he hissed. "Now your mother's curse will bloom again." He struck the tree with his blade, but the metal shattered. The ground split, and a cry like thunder filled the air. Abini's voice rose from the roots, sorrowful yet fierce. "Child of envy, have you learned nothing?" Light burst from the tree, engulfing Taro. When it faded, he was gone, leaving only a trail of petals. Nia fell to her knees, trembling. The tree's branches bent low, brushing her shoulders gently. "You have done well," the spirit whispered, "but this world will always need healers who remember pain." From that day, Nia became the guardian of the valley, tending the tree of tomorrow as her mother's spirit once did. She grew old there, teaching others to balance power with humility. And though she never married, when she sang by the river, the air shimmered as though someone unseen sang beside her. The griot closes his eyes and says, "Thus the Thorn Princess lived again, not in body, but in spirit, through every heart that chose love over envy." And far away,
Where the sun kissed the horizon, the petals of the tree glowed, red for love, white for forgiveness, silver for memory.